to him and told him something, and the hero asked about the smell. The protagonist turned to his subordinates and said that they needed to dig a little more, and everyone agreed. The people were digging, and then one of them came across something strange. The reincarnated one looked down at the red light and was very alarmed. The corpses lay in a row, neatly stacked, and he began to wonder what kind of nonsense was going on. He covered his face with his hand and thought that this was not in the novel. Only some habits of the mastodons were mentioned, but now he cannot be sure of anything, since more and more things began to happen that were not in the novel. Looking at the mountains of corpses, the protagonist thought that the only thing familiar to him was, and then he realized what it was. The guy imagined the chapter about the Namarun barrier where Xavier mastered the explosion and the black magic that appeared in this chapter. The mastodons began to glow purple and emit mana. Lloyd noticed this and thought with great alarm that he knew it. He immediately, with horror on his face, ordered everyone to immediately get out of here because the magic of the decomposition explosion was laid here. The bodies began to swell and glow even brighter. The workers ran in horror and looked back. A column of fire burst out of the pit. The running hero thought that the flames were rushing towards them and at this rate they would die. The heir turned around holding the shovel in his hand and thought that he would not let his workers get hurt. He raised the shovel and shouted as he was about to use the explosion, thinking that he didn't know if it would work but if he used the power from the skill to neutralize it. But the next moment, Baibong stood in front of him and covered him with his body from the explosion. Lloyd looked at it in horror and loudly called his name. The dragon saw a glow in the distance while cutting wood. He turned around and thought that the sound came from there, and it seemed like a necromancer's magic, and the explosion magic, judging by the power, was used on a corpse much larger than a human body. The red-haired man looked at it with displeasure and thought that this swindler seemed to be in trouble, and thought about whether it was worth helping him and wondered if he even had such an obligation. But then something caught his attention. Xavier was running nearby. Then the red-eyed man returned to work and thought that it was obvious that everything would be fine with them since this monster was running there. Lloyd was standing below and trying to make his phantom